Debating is good, though. Keep debating, keep asking questions. And I know it's hard. It's sometimes confusing, right? When you're asking, I mean, think about it, guys. We exist here, and what is this, right? What is this place? Well, we don't know what it is. We don't know how we got here. And there's always that thing in the back of our mind saying, what if you're wrong? What if you're wrong, right? That little guy in the back of our head saying, what if you're wrong? So there's so much confliction within our own minds. It's hard to keep a straight mentality or focused mentality. So the point is that the solution is to learn. The solution is to educate yourself, and it's hard to learn all these things. But the process of this necessitates letting go of these expectations, letting go of this idea that the universe cares about me, that I'm central to the universe, that the universe owes me something, right? Or that we have meaning, that we have inherent or intrinsic meaning and value. When you let go of those notions, you're now more freely and more able to ask those hard questions. You don't get scared. You don't get the EBGBs by asking these big questions. And that's how learning is done. Because when you're a theist, you're focused on one goal, right? When you start at the top, you think God is it. And now you trying to work your way down the whole time after that. But that's the easy route, but also the wrong route, right? Because all you're doing there is asserting God. But if you start from a secular place, right, from a bottom-up perspective, where you know nothing, you can see that you know nothing and that there is no purpose or meaning, you start there, bare bones, and you work your way up from there. That is a much more prosperous endeavor in finding truth, because now you're not attached to one outcome. Now, whatever the truth is, you don't care. You're not attached to it. You're not emotionally attached to it, to any necessarily true outcome. Whatever it is, you will follow it. Whereas the theist is so focused on that one outcome, and if that doesn't happen, their entire view shatters. It's like building a house of cards and a little wind comes by and the whole thing collapses. So the point is that you want to build a sturdy foundation by letting go of those expectations about purpose and meaning, but also recognize that on the way up, also the most beautiful thing about being an atheist is that when you start from the bare bones and you work your way up, you realize that you can actually derive all those things that the theist does from a naturalistic perspective. And that's powerful. That's the most powerful thing about it. That you can get purpose and meaning, or notions of these things. You can get morality, get notions of these things, not only from naturalism or a naturalistic perspective, but also in a more prosperous way, a more powerful way, a more potent way. And that's something that you can't just explain to somebody. That takes years of learning, years of questioning, years of research. And that's what it means to be an intellectual, somebody who is dedicating their time to learning things. Anybody can do it. But it's hard to do, but very, very freeing to do. Do you have an opinion on Lawrence Krauss's definition of nothing? Yeah, I think it's confusing. I think when Lawrence Krauss says it, I think it's confusing. I think the best way to go about it is to say that nothingness can't exist. Because every time you imagine or conceive of nothing, you're actually conceiving of something, right? You're conceiving of thoughts or darkness or space-time. You're constructing something in your mind to even invoke that word nothing. So how can you conceive of absolute nothingness? So the question is it even really a coherent notion? Is it really a coherent notion? And I'd say no. I say that absolute nothingness doesn't exist. But what Lawrence Krauss was trying to explain, which is valid, but I just think it's confusing, is that in quantum mechanics, empty space, what typically we would call nothing, is actually full of stuff, full of energy, quantum fields that can fluctuate. And from this empty space can yield big bangs, universes. So his entire notion of a universe from nothing was that quantum fluctuations, which we would typically call nothing from our perspective, can actually make an entire universe. So I get what he was saying, and it's valid, but the problem is that it doesn't actually explain. It just makes it more confusing for a theist who doesn't quite understand that nothingness in any absolute term is incoherent. But I think it's incredible that the universe as we know it actually did arise from empty space. The universe doesn't operate as we think it does. There's a lot more to it that completely defies our intuitions. Completely. Like things you thought were impossible become possible when you learn more about the universe. Guys, there's so much to discover. So much to discover. So much amazingness out there that we never talk about. At the end of the day, we shouldn't be worrying about all these big questions all the time. At the end of the day, we shouldn't be so focused on these big questions about, we should be living our lives and learning the most we can. That's how we should be living. But the problem is that it's kind of like collectively as a species, we have experienced this PTSD from people of the past, where out of their ignorance and out of their arrogance have forced these religions onto us and forced these ideas onto us such that we've inherited them in a way. So it is now our job to deconstruct from our past. And we're not going to progress unless we deconstruct first. So that's why deconstruction is a very important thing. And I know it's uncomfortable, right? I get so much hate. Theists, hey, stop talking about God. Why do you talk about God so much? Well, the reason why is because you don't talk about it enough, right? Because when people believe in God and all these things, they tend to make them secretive. They're sacred. You can't touch them. You can't talk about it. You can't criticize it. You can't critique it. Don't talk bad about Allah. Don't talk bad about the Quran. Don't talk bad about the Bible. And for many centuries, we've held these theologies as somehow these sacred things that can't be touched. Well, I'm here to say that no, you can. They can be touched. We can dismantle them. We can criticize them, and they're not exempt from criticism at all. No belief is exempt from criticism, especially not yours, that has the potential for lots of harm, and it is harming people in our world. So in that sense, I'm more of an activist than a debater. I don't debate for debating. I don't care about philosophy. It's stupid to me. What I care about is making people see the big ideas. And if it takes a little bit of philosophy to get there, fine, but the big ideas is what I'm focused on, because that's what really matters at the end of the day. I mean, sure, you can, these details about, these little details here and there, we'll always be discussing those forever, but the main point is that there's a specific way of thinking that is more prosperous and more productive and more efficient than a theologian one or theistic one. And that's what I'm here for. What are your thoughts on free will? We don't have it. I didn't choose to have it. If we do have it, I didn't choose to have it. if we have free will, I didn't choose to have it. So is that really free? I don't think so. But more importantly, I think that if we agree that there's cause and effect, that things have effects and causes, and every action I do is determined by some previous cause. So we take a look at what those causes were, right? Why am I waving my hands like this? Why am I doing this right now? It feels like I'm free. It feels like I'm freely doing these things. But if you go look at the brain, we recognize that there were a series of chemical reactions that took place prior to me acting. It took time for the signals to be produced and get sent down to my nerve endings into my arms, my muscles, and move my arms. So there's a delay between my brain and my actions. So that instantly shows us that no, it's not as instantaneous as you think it is. We're not really that in control of our surroundings. And every action I do, everything I feel, everything I desire to do, right? Why did I move my arm? I desire to. Well, okay, why did I desire that? Well, people on TikTok, the words they said, my brain recognized them and my brain acted upon those signals, and I moved my arm to show you an example, right? The point is that we can show reasons as to why every action I do was determined by something else prior, that I, whatever that means, didn't have control over entirely. I was influenced, and everything I do is influenced by other things. Neurons, my environment, and everything I learn, everything I know was taught to me by somebody. So everything I do and know and say was taught to me by somebody else or some other thing I've observed in reality. We are completely products of our environments, in my view. And in that case, I don't see any room for freedom. Now, I could be wrong. I'm agnostic. There could be some quantum indeterminacy here or quantum randomness where we do somehow have free will, but I don't know. I think that if you believe in the laws of physics, there can't be free will.